A routine Saturday afternoon at Riverside Mall transformed into a moment that would shake our community to its core. The sound of children's laughter and bustling shoppers turned to gasps and whispers as security guards surrounded a well-dressed black woman and her 8-year-old daughter outside a high-end boutique. What happened next would not only challenge our perceptions but also spark a conversation that needed to be had. Sandra Thompson, a respected pediatrician with 15 years of service to our community, had been shopping for her daughter's birthday present. Like any mother, she wanted to make her little girl's special day perfect. They'd spent the morning trying on dresses, sharing ice cream, and making memories until someone made a call that would change everything. The security footage, which later went viral, shows Sandra carefully examining a silver charm bracelet, her daughter's eyes lighting up beside her. Minutes later, 3 security guards approached, their voices loud enough to draw attention from nearby shoppers. Her daughter, clutching her mother's hand, watched in confusion as accusations of theft filled the air. "Mommy, what's happening?" The little girl's voice trembled as her mother remained surprisingly calm, reaching for her purse with steady hands. But before Sandra could explain herself, the situation escalated in ways nobody expected. What happened in those next few minutes would not only test one family's strength, but would also reveal something about our society that nobody saw coming. The cell phone videos started rolling as other shoppers gathered around. Among them was an elderly white woman who stepped forward, her presence about to add an unexpected twist to this unfolding drama. She held something in her hand, evidence that would turn this story on its head. But this isn't just another viral video about racial profiling at a mall. This is a story about humanity, about judgments made in split seconds, and about the power of speaking up when witnessing injustice. It's about what happens when ordinary people find themselves in extraordinary situations, and how a community responds when forced to confront uncomfortable truths. As Sandra's daughter watched events unfold through tear-filled eyes, something remarkable began to take shape. The crowd that gathered wasn't just there to record another viral moment. They were about to become part of a story that would challenge everything we think we know about standing up for what's right. The security guards' body cameras captured every word, every gesture, and every reaction. But it's what they didn't expect to capture that day that would eventually make headlines across the country. As tensions rose and emotions ran high, an unexpected ally emerged from the crowd, carrying with them a piece of evidence that would change everything. What happened next at Riverside Mall didn't just end with a simple resolution. It sparked a movement in our community, leading to changes that would ripple through shopping centers across the country. But more importantly, it taught us all a lesson about assumptions, courage, and the power of speaking truth in moments of injustice. This is a story about more than just a misunderstanding at a mall. It's about what happens when prejudice meets principle, when fear faces truth, and when a community decides to stand up and say, "Enough is enough." But before we get to how this story ends, you need to see how a simple shopping trip turned into a moment that would test one mother's dignity, challenge a community's conscience, and ultimately reveal something about humanity that none of us saw coming. Stay tuned, because what happened next will not only surprise you, it might just change the way you think about standing up for what's right. Let's rewind to just 15 minutes before chaos erupted at Riverside Mall. Sandra Thompson had walked into Claire's boutique, her daughter skipping alongside her, their shopping bags swinging with each step. The boutique's security cameras showed them being greeted warmly by the store staff, the same staff who would later be caught in the middle of what was about to unfold. As Sandra browsed through the jewelry section, her daughter pointed excitedly at a charm bracelet displayed behind the glass case. "Can I try it on, Mom?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with hope. The sales associate, a young woman named Sarah, smiled and carefully removed the bracelet from the display. What nobody noticed at that moment was another customer watching the interaction intently from behind a rack of scarves. The security footage later revealed something crucial. While Sandra and her daughter were admiring the bracelet, an elderly woman with silver hair was trying to get the attention of the store manager. She appeared agitated, pointing repeatedly in Sandra's direction. The store manager's expression changed from polite attention to concerned urgency. Meanwhile, Sandra had placed the bracelet back in its case and thanked Sarah. Her daughter's disappointment was visible. The bracelet's price tag had been more than Sandra had budgeted for that day. They were just about to leave the store when the security guards appeared, their walkie-talkies crackling with static. What happened next was captured by at least 7 different cell phones, each offering a slightly different perspective of the unfolding scene. The first guard, badge number 2475, approached Sandra with his hand raised. "Ma'am, we need you to step aside." His voice was firm but controlled, trained to handle situations exactly like this, or so he thought. The elderly woman who had spoken to the manager stood nearby, clutching her designer purse tightly. Her face showed a mix of emotions, certainty, concern, and something else that the cameras couldn't quite capture. But she wasn't just a random shopper making assumptions. She had seen something, or at least she thought she had, that would turn this entire situation into something nobody expected. Sandra's daughter, still holding her mother's hand, began to tremble. "Mom?" she whispered, her voice barely audible in the increasingly tense atmosphere. Sandra squeezed her hand reassuringly, her medical ID badge from some central hospital catching the fluorescent light as she reached into her purse. But before she could retrieve whatever she was reaching for, a second security guard stepped forward, his hand moving toward his radio. The crowd growing around them had their phones out, recording what they assumed would be yet another viral video of racial profiling. They didn't know that in just moments, everything they thought they knew about this situation would be turned upside down. From somewhere in the gathering crowd, a voice rang out. "Wait!" The elderly white woman who had been watching earlier stepped forward, her hands shaking as she held something in front of her. The security guards paused, uncertain about this unexpected intervention. The mall's security cameras picked up movement near the store's entrance, more guards arriving, responding to a code called over their radios. But they were about to walk into a situation that was far more complex than any of their training had prepared them for. As tensions mounted and the crowd grew larger, nobody noticed the store's young sales associate, Sarah, frantically searching through the security footage on the store's computer. She had seen something that would add yet another layer to this already complicated situation. But would she find it in time? The elderly woman's voice trembled as she began to speak, her words about to reveal a truth that nobody in that crowded mall corridor was prepared to hear. The elderly woman's hands shook as she held up her cell phone, its screen displaying a video she had recorded just minutes earlier. "You need to see this," she said, her voice carrying an urgency that made even the security guards pause. But before she could show the footage, something unexpected happened. The store's fire alarm suddenly blared to life, adding chaos to an already tense situation. Through the noise and confusion, Sarah, the young sales associate, came rushing out of the store's back office, waving a tablet in her hand. "Wait, please wait," she called out, pushing through the crowd. The security footage she'd been reviewing had revealed something crucial, something that would change everyone's understanding of what they thought they'd witnessed. Sandra remained remarkably composed, her years of handling emergency room crises evident in her calm demeanor. She kept her daughter close, whispering words of comfort while maintaining eye contact with the lead security guard. "There's been a misunderstanding," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. The crowd had grown larger now, with shoppers from nearby stores gathering to witness the scene. Among them was a local news reporter who happened to be shopping during her lunch break. She had already started live streaming the incident to her news station's social media feed, capturing every moment as it unfolded. The elderly woman tried again to speak up, but her voice was drowned out by the persistent fire alarm. The security guards looked increasingly uncertain, their training conflicting with the growing sense that this situation wasn't what it initially seemed. The lead guard's radio crackled with updates about the fire alarm, apparently triggered by accident during a routine maintenance check. Sandra's daughter, still clutching her mother's hand, suddenly pointed toward the store's entrance. "Mom, look!" she exclaimed. Everyone turned to see what had caught her attention, and the crowd parted as someone new approached, someone whose presence would completely transform the narrative that had been building. Through the parting crowd walked the store manager, accompanied by another figure whose identity would soon shock everyone present. They carried with them evidence that would not only clear Sandra's name but would expose a truth that nobody in the mall that day could have anticipated. The fire alarm finally fell silent, leaving a heavy quiet in its wake. The elderly woman's video was still playing on her phone, its audio now clearly audible in the sudden silence. The security guards leaned in to watch, their expressions shifting from authority to confusion, then to something approaching embarrassment. Sarah, the sales associate, finally reached the center of the crowd, her tablet displaying the security footage she'd discovered. "You all need to see this," she said, her voice trembling with the weight of what she'd found. The footage showed something happening just moments before Sandra and her daughter had entered the store, something that would explain everything. The local reporter pushed closer, her phone still streaming live as the store managers stepped forward with their crucial piece of evidence. The crowd held its breath, sensing they were about to witness something extraordinary. Sandra's daughter squeezed her mother's hand tighter, looking up at her with trust and confusion mixed in her young eyes. And then, in that charged moment of anticipation, the elderly woman finally managed to make herself heard. Her words, when they came, would shake everyone's assumptions to their core. "That bracelet," she began, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I saw what really happened, and you all need to know the truth." The security guards exchanged glances, their hands hovering over their radios. The store manager stepped forward, evidence in hand, ready to reveal what would turn this story from a seeming case of racial profiling into something nobody could have predicted. The truth was about to come out, and it would change everything. "That bracelet," the elderly woman continued, her voice growing stronger, "was actually stolen an hour ago, but not by this woman. I watched it happen, and I've been waiting here ever since, hoping the real thief would return." The crowd murmured as she swiped through her phone, showing clear photos of someone else slipping the original bracelet into their bag and replacing it with what looked like an identical copy. The store manager stepped forward, holding up a small evidence bag containing what appeared to be the fake bracelet. "We discovered this switch during our inventory check," she explained. "The real bracelet had a unique serial number engraved on the clasp. This one," she held up the counterfeit, "it's part of a sophisticated theft ring targeting high-end stores across 3 states." But just as the situation seemed to be clearing up, Sandra's expression changed. She had been examining the photos on the elderly woman's phone, and something caught her attention. "Wait," she said, her medical training kicking in as she zoomed in on one particular image. "I know that person. They were in my emergency room last week, and there's something everyone needs to know." The local reporter's live-stream viewer count was skyrocketing as Sandra revealed a connection that no one could have anticipated. The case of a switched bracelet was suddenly expanding into something far larger than a simple theft. The security guards, who moments ago had been ready to escort Sandra out, were now frantically radioing for backup, but for an entirely different reason. Sarah, the sales associate, gasped as she connected the dots on her tablet's security footage. "Look at this," she said, turning the screen toward the gathered crowd. The footage showed something happening in the background while Sandra and her daughter had been shopping, something that added yet another layer to the unfolding mystery. Sandra's daughter tugged at her mother's sleeve, her young face serious. "Mom, remember the lady from the ice cream shop? The one who was acting weird?" Her innocent observation suddenly carried new weight as the adults around her exchanged meaningful glances. The child had unknowingly noticed something crucial that everyone else had missed. The elderly woman's hands trembled as she pulled up one final photo on her phone. "There's more," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I followed them after they left the store, and what I saw—" She paused, looking around nervously. "Well, maybe we should discuss this somewhere more private." The lead security guard's radio crackled to life with an urgent message from mall security. Reports were coming in of similar incidents at other stores in the mall, all happening right at that moment. This wasn't just about one bracelet anymore, it was about something much bigger unfolding in real time. Sandra, still maintaining her composure, reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "Before we go anywhere," she said, her voice steady but urgent, "there's something else you need to see." She handed the card to the store manager, whose eyes widened as she read what was printed on its reverse side. The crowd pressed closer, sensing that they were witnessing something extraordinary. The local reporter's hands shook as she continued streaming, knowing that this story had just blown wide open. But before anyone could react to Sandra's revelation, a new figure emerged from the back of the crowd, someone whose appearance caused the elderly woman to freeze mid-sentence. "That's them," she whispered, her face paling. "That's the person from my photos." But as heads turned to look, it became clear that this story was about to take yet another unexpected turn. The newcomer smiled, reached into their jacket, and pulled out something that made everyone's blood run cold. The newcomer's smile faltered as they pulled out not a weapon, but a gleaming FBI badge. "Special Agent Richardson," she announced, her voice carrying across the now silent crowd. "Dr. Thompson and I have been working together for the past 3 months tracking an organized retail theft ring that's been targeting malls across the country." The security guards immediately stepped back, their postures shifting from authority to deference. Sandra finally relaxed her protective stance around her daughter and pulled out her own credentials. She wasn't just a pediatrician, but also a forensic consultant who had been instrumental in identifying the sophisticated counterfeiting operation through trace evidence left on a patient involved in a related case. Her daughter beamed proudly, now understanding why their shopping trips had often involved such careful observation of their surroundings. The elderly woman, whose name was revealed to be Patricia Walsh, turned out to be a retired detective who had stumbled upon the operation by chance. Her keen eye and quick thinking in documenting everything had provided crucial evidence. "I knew something was off when I saw them switching those bracelets," she explained. 40 years of police work teaches you to trust your instincts." Sarah, the sales associate, stepped forward with her tablet, now displaying a comprehensive timeline she had pieced together from security footage. "They've been hitting our store every Saturday," she revealed. "Always during peak hours, always with identical counterfeits. But today," she smiled, "today they didn't expect us to be ready." As if on cue, mall security radioed in. They had just apprehended 3 suspects at different exits, each carrying bags of switched merchandise. The organized ring had walked right into a carefully orchestrated sting operation, with every coincidental player in place: the retired detective, the undercover FBI agent, the vigilant sales associate, and the forensic consultant posing as a shopping mother. But just as victory seemed certain, Sandra's daughter spoke up again. "Mom, what about the ice cream lady? The one who gave us the napkin with the weird writing?" The FBI agent's head snapped up, and Sandra quickly retrieved a crumpled napkin from her purse. On it was a coded message that revealed something even more startling. This wasn't just about stolen jewelry anymore. The local reporter, who had been streaming the entire revelation, suddenly recognized the significance of what she was witnessing. This wasn't just a local crime story. It was the break in a case that would lead to one of the largest retail crime busts in the state's history. Her live stream had just captured the moment when months of careful investigation finally paid off. Patricia Walsh, the elderly woman who had appeared to be a concerned bystander, smiled as she watched the security guards leading away another suspect. "You know," she said, turning to Sandra's daughter, "your mom's just as much a hero in that hospital as she is here. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is pretend to be scared while actually staying strong." The crowd began to disperse as FBI agents and local police flooded the scene. Sandra hugged her daughter close, both of them watching as evidence was collected and statements were taken. The little girl looked up at her mother with newfound admiration. "Mom," she whispered, "can we still get ice cream after this?" And that's when the final twist revealed itself. As Sandra reached into her purse for her wallet, she found a note that had been slipped in during the commotion, a message that would lead to yet another case, another mystery, and another story that would need to be told. But that, as they say, is a story for another day. The incident at Riverside Mall wasn't just about a misunderstanding or even about catching criminals. It was about appearances being deceiving, about justice working in unexpected ways, and about how sometimes the most ordinary shopping trip can turn into something extraordinary. As Sandra and her daughter finally headed for that ice cream, the mall's security cameras caught one last exchange between them, a conversation that would become the beginning of their next adventure. In the days that followed the dramatic events at Riverside Mall, the story took on a life of its own. Local news channels ran special reports about the sophisticated retail theft ring, but they focused on something even more compelling: how a diverse group of people, each bringing their unique skills and perspectives, had come together to solve a case that went far beyond a simple misunderstanding at a jewelry counter. The mall's security team completely revised their training protocols. The lead guard, who had initially approached Sandra, became an advocate for change, developing new guidelines that emphasized observation and communication over immediate confrontation. Sometimes, he would say during training sessions, what looks like suspicious behavior is actually someone doing the right thing in an unexpected way. Patricia Walsh, the retired detective, received special recognition from the FBI for her role in the operation. But what touched her most was the friendship that developed between her and Sandra's daughter. Every Saturday, they would meet for ice cream at the mall, where Patricia would share stories from her detective days, teaching the young girl about observation skills and the importance of standing up for what's right. Sarah, the quick-thinking sales associate, was offered a position in mall security's digital surveillance team. Her attention to detail and ability to piece together evidence from security footage had proven invaluable. She accepted the position with one condition: that she could continue working part-time at the boutique, keeping an eye out for anything unusual. The note Sandra found in her purse that day led to another investigation, one that would eventually uncover a money laundering operation using mall businesses as fronts. But that case was handled much differently: no dramatic confrontations, no crowd of onlookers with cell phones. Sometimes, Sandra would remind her daughter, the most important work happens quietly, behind the scenes. The local reporters lit a stream of the incident went viral, but not for the reasons anyone expected. Instead of becoming another example of racial profiling, it became a teaching moment about appearances, assumptions, and the importance of letting situations unfold before jumping to conclusions. Comments poured in from around the country, with people sharing their own stories of times when first impressions proved completely wrong. Sandra's daughter did eventually get her charm bracelet, a gift from the FBI team to thank her for her unwitting role in the operation. But more valuable than the bracelet were the lessons she learned that day about her mother's courage, about the importance of staying calm under pressure, and about how heroes don't always look like what we expect. Riverside Mall became known for more than just shopping. It became a symbol of how a community can come together, how prejudices can be overcome, and how justice can work in unexpected ways. The security cameras that had captured everything that day were retired to a local museum, part of an exhibit about community policing and civil rights. As for Sandra and her daughter, their Saturday shopping trips continued, but with a difference. Now they were often joined by Patricia, Sarah, or other members of what they jokingly called their mall mystery squad. Each trip became an adventure in observation, in looking beyond the surface, and in understanding that every person has a story that's worth knowing. The final surprise came 6 months later, when Sandra's daughter started a school project about Career Day. Standing in front of her class, she didn't just talk about wanting to be a doctor like her mom. She talked about being a detective, a security guard, an FBI agent, and a journalist, because that day at the mall had taught her something important. Sometimes the best path forward is the one that brings different people together, each contributing their own piece to the bigger picture. And so, what began as a potential tragedy became the story of triumph, not just over crime, but over prejudice, over fear, and over the assumptions we sometimes make about each other. It's a story that continues to be told at Riverside Mall, reminding us all that sometimes the most important evidence isn't what we see, but what we take the time to understand.